Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Encourage Mindset. I'm your host, Ethan Vandehyve. And today I have a special guest with us today. Today I have Dan Marzullo. Dan, welcome on to the show. Pleasure to have you. And why don't you let the audience know a little bit about yourself, what you kind of been up to in the 2022 year?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me too, Ethan. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think it's funny, right? February, you're still off the hook, right? Maybe once we get into March, if you're still, doing the 2021 thing, that's when you'll get in trouble, right?
Exactly. No, life has just been kind of cruising by fast, and it's like, holy cow. Sometimes it's like, man, I wish I could put life on pause a little bit, but you really can't do that.
Right. Exactly. Well, yeah, no. So I would say, thanks again for having me. My name is Dan Marzullo, like you mentioned. I'm the founder of Drafted. We're a small content marketing agency for B2B SaaS companies. Been in business for a little over 6 years now. And as an entrepreneur, I think mindset is critical to success. So yeah, just super excited to be on here and chatting through it with you today.
Yeah, excellent. And that's what we kind of talk about on this podcast. Like you said, mindset. And I think mindset revolves in a lot of people's professional jobs, as you kind of said, in your current marketing field, but it also kind of applies to life in general. I think a lot of people really want to develop a routine or a plan with specific goals, as we hear a lot in school and education, those SMART goals. And I think they are critical to life, but also I think the really big thing to pushing yourself to be the best person you can be is not only do research and learn from others, but also hear from others. So excited to hear you and answer some amazing questions that I put together. So if we're going to dive into it, we might as well start now. So kind of the first question I have for you, Dan, is how do you motivate yourself to get work done after trying many things and failing over and over again?
Yeah, no, great question, Ethan. I think and anybody who's in business can relate to this super well because it's failure after failure, right? It's I think of it as like sales. You're going to get 500 rejections before you get a single yes or a single sale. So I think it's important to, understand. One thing I always keep in mind is remember your why, right? Why are you even going after that? Why do you want to achieve that? And then if you keep that in mind and you can push that out until you do get that big win, that first sale, right? That's going to fire you up and motivate you to keep going. So that's just kind of how I think of it. One of the things that comes to mind on this that I think relates really well is Eric Thomas's favorite famous quote, right? It's pain is temporary. If you quit, however, it'll last forever, right? So that's kind of how I try to frame it in my mind, to just stay focused and keep on that track to get from A to B.
Exactly. And I think that quote right there needed to be heard. And I definitely sometimes needed to hear that, because I personally, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, give up easy on some things. Like I'll hit hard for something 4 days in a row. Like let's say it's waking up at 6 a.m. You're solid at it 4 days in a row. And then that fifth, sixth, those next couple days just kind of struggle at.
Yeah, no, that definitely happens. And I think again, you got to think about, okay, why do I really want this? Or is this even a goal that I really want to achieve? Because a lot of times you'll set out to do something, and then if it's too easy to quit, sometimes you just realize, you know what, this isn't my focus, or this isn't as important to me as I thought it was, right? And that's okay too sometimes.
Exactly. So we kind of were talking right there about motivating yourself. What do you kind of do for motivation, since you are an entrepreneur? And that's pretty much, I don't know what your schedule looks like, but a lot of entrepreneurs currently, I feel like, kind of do things when they need to. But what is your kind of take on your motivation and mindset?
Yeah, so I think for me, I have kind of a unique perspective on it. And my thought is, what's the alternative, right? So if you set out to achieve a goal, if you fail at that, or you just stop pursuing that altogether, what's going to happen there, right? So I think the best example I can give is if you're running a business and you have a terrible week, say you lose like 3 of your best, highest paying clients, right? Well, you kind of have to then stay motivated to stick the course, go out there and replace that income, right? Because if you don't, well, what's the alternative? You can't pay your bills, you're going to lose your house, probably end up homeless, right? So I think of it as, motivating myself by going, okay, well, what is the alternative? If I don't achieve this goal that I set out, what's the end result? And it's probably not going to be positive. So staying that course to avoid the scary truth is something that I always keep in mind to kind of keep that motivation to press forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So diving into some more questions, because I personally love hearing answers from everybody, and that's why I love having guests on my show, is what do you kind of think is a habit requiring the least effort that makes the greatest difference?
That's a good question. So, I don't think I can think of a habit that doesn't require a lot of effort, right? Anything that anything that's worth doing is always kind of hard in some aspect. So I would say, the biggest thing that I think that you can get the most ROI from is just getting up early, right? The earlier you wake up, plain and simply, the more you're going to get done. So that would be my take there. What about you? What do you think for this one?
Man, that's a tough one. I think a habit requiring the least effort that makes the greatest difference is simply like making your bed.
Oh, there you go.
I think a lot of people, I mean, if you look behind me right now, I didn't make my bed today. Like, I didn't, I'm going to be honest. But I think if you can find a way to do that, it starts your day out right. And I think there's a lot of like statistics and facts that actually back that up. Right now, I can't really look them up or spit them out at you, but
sure.
I think honestly though, like you wake up, you are setting your mindset towards having a great day, and whether that is getting up at 6, 7, 8, whatever. But I think that first thing that takes 2 minutes is just make your bed. And that is something I need to work on. And I think that habit right there could make a great difference.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot too. And I think, I forget the author's name, but what is it? Atomic Habits, that they talk a lot about making your bed. And it's just, like you said, the psychology behind it is you just started out your day with a quick win. So then you're more productive and you're just feeling more confident and great at tackling the rest of your day. So I think that's definitely a good one. And it is interesting to see how something small like that truly can kind of reframe the rest of your day and what you achieve moving forward in that day.
Exactly. I think another one that a lot of people don't do, especially myself, but I want to do it, is go to bed. Like, let's say I go to bed at 10, and then 30 minutes before I go to bed, so 9:30, no use of electronic. No phone, no TV, no nothing. Just either read a book or kind of think about my day or plan out the next day, or maybe read a Bible scripture, something like that, where it's actually like, man, letting my eyes take like a rest from the screen.
Yeah, that's a really tough one. I definitely struggle with that as well. And I mean, I think, a lot of people do. Unless you're like, okay, cool. Like you said, all right, got 30 minutes left. We're going to grab a book. If I don't do that and then knock out that way, it's, you're going to be on the phone. That's just kind of what I've been battling. But what do you think do you like check email and stuff like that, social media right before, or what?
Well, so my problem is like last night, you got the Milwaukee Bucks playing, you got the Wisconsin Badgers playing. So I mean, like, you're watching that. Like, I love sports, so I can talk my ear off about sports all day. But I mean, you watch the sporting game, and it's the same thing with Sunday Night Football in Central Time that ends at like 10:30. I mean, right after that, it's like, okay, head to bed. There we go. So it's like, okay, I didn't really do what I said I was going to do and give myself some time to rest and give myself to kind of prepare for bedtime or do those other things I just talked about earlier. But I think what goes on in the world today makes that task really hard.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the sports, right? We're on the West Coast, so we have the luxury of it all ending at a pretty good time,
Yeah, you got the Super Bowl ending at like 8 o'clock for you.
Exactly. That was it. Yeah. We're all from back east, and it was like that was the worst thing is being in Maryland and staying up until 11 o'clock oh, cool. The game's over. I can go to bed now. I don't miss
Mhm.
that.
No, exactly. And as like I always thought about that. I'm like, man, they get up in the morning at like 8, they like hang out for 2 hours, and then it's football at 10 a.m. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny. It's definitely a perk out here in Colorado for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So, kind of fast forwarding, I've heard you kind of bring up a couple of quotes and a couple of other books. I think I heard you say Atomic Habits, but what kind of book or podcast would you kind of recommend helping someone find their motivation or improve their mindset?
Yeah, so the first one that pops out here is Crush It, Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know, I'm sure you're probably familiar with him and a lot of your
Yeah,
audiences, right?
I would definitely say so. I mean, he's just a big influential person nowadays.
Right, right. So, that was his first book that he wrote. It's less tactical and more kind of motivational mindset to get you motivated to go out there and start that business or whatever it is you want to do. Quick, short read too, which is great. So that would probably be my number one. The second one here, and so this is actually a new one that I haven't read yet that I'm going to get, but I've watched a lot of the TED Talks from the author, and she talks about this topic a lot, which is really powerful. So her book, it just came out too, I think a couple months ago. It's called Unfollow Your Passion, How to Create a Life That Matters to You. The author is Terry Trespicio. So that's another one that I would say definitely grab.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. And you can probably get those on Amazon, I'm sure, if anyone is really interested in checking those out. But you kind of talked about something that I wanted to bring to light. And I think a lot of people either want to do it too, or they are already doing it, but they want to be the best version at how to do it. And it's how can I become a morning person? Because I personally think it's a key to success. But I mean, like we said, we go to bed at sometimes 10 p.m. and that alarm rings at 6 a.m. and you're like, oh, no, no, no. But I was kind of curious on what you think about it.
Yeah, I've got a few tips for this one here, Ethan. So I think, the first strategy that works well, I've done this, is start getting up 20 minutes earlier each day, right? So just set your alarm, like whatever your goal time is, say, oh, I want to get up at 5 a.m. or whatever. If you're used to getting up at 8 a.m., obviously that's going to be really difficult. So each day, boom, 20 minutes earlier on that alarm. The other end of the spectrum, and I've done this as well, is you can just totally go for it and just set that alarm for that ideal time. If you're used to waking up at 8, get up at 5. Yeah, it's going to smack you in the face and it's going to be terrible. But the main thing is you got to just get your body used to that, because then you'll go to bed at an early enough time to get up, right? I think a lot of people try to limit themselves and go, oh, I'm going to go to bed by 10 p.m. so I can get up at this time. And then there's so much stress and pressure to get to bed at that time that they end up staying up till 11. Whereas if you kind of reverse it and just start getting up early, your body's going to naturally get tired sooner, so you can wake up sooner. So that would kind of be my two strategies there for approaching it. But the next piece of that is schedule something that you must do in the morning, right? So say you're like, all right, I'm going to get up at 5, plan to do something that you have to get done. So for example, say that's a workout, right? If maybe you work from 8 to 5, right? And you go, okay, I'm going to schedule this workout from 6 to 7:30. If I don't get up and don't do that, I'm not going to get it in all day, right? Because I'm going to be at work the rest of the day, and then I got X, Y, and Z after work. So that's your one window to get that thing done. So schedule something that's really important so that you'll motivate yourself to actually get up and get that done.
Yeah. I think another one that I've actually liked and tried and it actually works is, so Siri for my phone is hit or miss. Like you can say like, sometimes it'll be working, sometimes it won't. But anyways, you charge your phone, like, usually people put their phone next to their bed, like on that counter or on that end table, and that's where they charge it. Well, put your phone across the room, set it for that 6 a.m. time or whatever it is, because at the end of the day, when you're groggy and you're waking up that early in the morning, you're going to have to go get out of bed and shut that alarm off. And then since you're already out of bed, you might as well stay out of bed. And like you said, go complete that task. If it's working out at 6 a.m. or if it's, hey, maybe I work virtually and I can start this earlier time frame or whatever it is, but you can kind of crush those tasks out by simply just moving your phone to a different location.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I've heard of that one before as well. And it works great as long as you get up and you don't have like a wife next to you or somebody that get up, turn that off. I'm trying to sleep still, right?
Exactly. So we are going to kind of ask another question here. We have time for one more that I really want to hit on. And this one is once again about habits and habit formation. But I think a lot of people really take habits seriously. And when they do it and they kind of fall back, they kind of lose on that habit and they never really do it again. So kind of wanted to hear your answer to why do we willfully and just consciously engage in self-destructive habits while ignoring our better judgment?
Yeah, so I would say I kind of have two parts to this one. So the first thing is, we all do kind of have those self-destructive habits. And I guess the biggest habit that comes to mind is binging, right? Say you're on some kind of fitness journey, right? And you're like, oh, I'm going to achieve whatever it is and whatever your health goals are. But everybody eats junk food, right? You might see some donut and go, man, that's awesome. I'm going to eat it. And well, why do we do that? Because, short-term gratification, right? Temporary satisfaction. When you self-sabotage in that way, you're kind of giving yourself a quick reward, that quick kind of dopamine hit, right? But, when we have to kind of keep our mind and our eye focused on that long-term goal of, okay, right now this is going to taste great, but long-term it's going to sabotage my health goal. And over the long term, that actual goal is going to make me feel a lot more satisfied and confident and successful. So kind of bringing it back to your why again and refocusing on that goal, I think is kind of the key to avoiding those things. And then the second piece to that is I always say that results are the greatest motivator, right? So when you do something, you kind of have to have the discipline to stick it out long enough to see some kind of results, because before then, yeah, you're going to keep falling off the wagon because you haven't seen any noticeable progress to get excited about. But if you can just commit long enough to see some kind of quick win, that's going to be super exciting and help you keep going and move on to that next phase towards that goal. So that's kind of the thing that I've found is really important to keep in mind there.
I think the binging that kills me the most is Netflix.
Really?
Oh my. Yeah, I think that's the binging that really gets me. It's because you fall into one episode and you're like, oh, that's right. Netflix has the next episode already. I could just watch it now. And you just sit there for like 5 hours later. You didn't do anything.
Right.
And it's like, oh, man, that was killer.
Right. It's kind of like a procrastination form, right? Which, again, makes you feel good temporarily because you're avoiding the hard stuff, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing, as we kind of talked about in that question, that really kills habits is people putting things off to last second.
Yeah, exactly. So don't do that.
Yes, don't do procrastination.
Right.
As hard as it sounds, don't do it. But
stop. Yeah.
Dan, is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience today? Maybe you want to really hype people up, motivate them, speak some amazing motivational quote, whatever it is, the floor is yours.
Oh man, no pressure, Ethan. Let's see here. I think if there's one other thing that I could kind of leave everyone with is, something that kind of really falls in as a theme for all of the things that we've talked about today is, you've got all these competing priorities. You've got all these things you want to do to reach your goals. It takes so much discipline. Just remember, like, discipline is a muscle, right? The more you practice something, the easier it gets. It's plain and simple as that. Is that first day you get up at 5 a.m. is going to suck. It's going to be terrible. But the next day it's going to be easier. The next day it'll be even easier. And eventually it'll become a habit, be a routine. So discipline is critical to anything that you're trying to achieve. But you can't just jump headfirst into it and be great at it, right? You have to just start somewhere and you're going to get better and more disciplined the more you train and work that muscle.
Exactly. Well, Thank you very much, Dan, for coming on to the show. Pleasure to talk with you about mindset, motivation, but also like habit formation as well. But once again, really appreciate it. Let's keep in touch. Is there anything else, Dan, that you'd like to share with everyone? 1 second before we kind of head off.
That's it, Ethan. I would say if anybody wants to reach out, find me on LinkedIn, Dan Marzullo. If you like podcasts, check out the Copy Corner podcast. Talk a lot about marketing and content there. Other than that, I hope that the listeners got some value out of this one.
Well, I sure did, and I think they will too. So thank you very much, Dan, and have a good rest of your night.
Yeah, you too. Thanks so much.
So if you're ready to grow, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and let's build a mindset that empowers and transforms.